Welcome to Who is Who in America on AlHikmat TV. It's a pleasure to have with us in AlHikmat studio a very, very prominent person in the community. And he is Commissioner J. Schwartz, Commissioner of Pembroke Pines. Welcome to the show, Commissioner.
Thank you, Sheikh.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, and we have been trying for a very long time to get you on this show, and I must say, you know, in Arabic we say, Alhamdulillah, all praises and thanks are due to God Almighty to have you with us on the program.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Pembroke Pines is a wonderful community, and it's a pleasure to be here, to be able to tell the people, not only here in Pembroke Pines, but in America, how great we are.
Good. So you being a very busy person, especially when you are a commissioner of a city, I know you will have a lot of things to do, and you're in charge of a lot of various areas with your duties and responsibilities. So as a politician and commissioner of Pembroke Pines, I know you will have a very interesting background. Could you share with our viewers a little bit of your background?
Sure, Sheikh, thank you. I was born and raised in the city of Philadelphia, raised by a single mom. My mother, with only a GED, learned trade becoming a dog groomer in order to provide my sister and I the most that she had. I was the first member of my family to go to college. I attended Barry University down here in South Florida.
Oh, very interesting.
Yes, with a business management degree.
So are you from Christian background or Jewish background?
Jewish background.
Okay.
Jewish background. However, growing up as a small child, there were different houses of worship that I attended because since Mom was working a lot, and clearly, you know, we had friends that had to look after my sister and I while we were young. You know, I attended all kinds of different Saturday and Sunday services. So even as a small child, I learned a wealth of knowledge, differences in faith. The most important thing, though, is that the city of Philadelphia is known as a city of brotherly love, and I believe that my roots bring. I never forget where I came from, and my mom taught me that all you have in life is your integrity, that your word means something, and to give back to your community. So I came to Pembroke Pines in 1989, attended Barry University, as I had mentioned, and shortly after my degree at Barry University, I obtained my master's in business administration from Nova Southeastern University. I worked some odds and end jobs, but I spent a lot of my time working in upper level management with a large international retailer. And then my children were born. Growing up without a father, I knew what I needed to do, and that was to ensure that my kids.
So how many kids you have?
Two boys.
Oh, very
two
nice.
boys. They're both in middle school, and you know, they're my life, and you know, they know that Dad is a hard worker. They know that you know, I give them love that I wish that more parents would spend a little more time with their kids, because
So you got a very diverse and multicultural upbringing, more or less.
I do. As a matter of fact, when it's a good thing, though. You know, in life, if you don't understand each other, then things happen. And in the world today, we have a lot of things that are happening due to some misunderstandings, a lack of knowledge, and sometimes just pure ignorance and hate.
So what year did you become commissioner, or did you get involved in the city of Pembroke Pines?
I first got involved in the city of Pembroke Pines back in 2007. There was a little girl who was murdered up in Gainesville by a sexual predator. And my wife and I did some internet research, and we found other sex offenders and sexual predators living next to children in Pembroke Pines.
Wow.
So I came forward to the city commission, to the mayor, and asked to protect the kids. I'm very grateful for that opportunity. The state of Florida now has the Jessica Lunsford Act, but Pembroke Pines, we were the very first city in the entire state of Florida to protect kids. And
that came from some of your hard work.
And that came through my initiative. So watching my item move through the process, so we say, I saw that there was an opportunity to make our community better, that the commission seat at the time needed the rightful change. You know, we had crime issues, we had property value issues, the local stuff that, you know, when you buy a home and you live in a community, you want it to be safe, you want you want to feel inclusive, and that was just missing. So I was elected to the commission back in 2012, and I've been able to move everything forward that I promised the people, because I don't consider myself a politician but a public servant.
Right.
And by doing so,
Well, that's what a politician should really be, a person who makes policies and be a public servant to serve the people.
that's always the hope. Unfortunately, we know that that's not always the case, and yeah, I know where I'm at. I'm grounded on my feet, and I try to use myself as an example. Working with high-risk, at-risk youth, getting involved in everything from sports programs to our Citizens Police Academy, and just being well-rounded, trying to get folks to get to know their neighbor, do more community events. And I'm very proud of being able to, as a commissioner, you have the opportunity to appoint different citizens to different advisory boards, and I'm all about diversity.
Well, that's a good point. Tell me, you know, we hear a lot, mayor, commissioner, different countries may have different policies.
Sure.
What exactly does the commissioner do or has to do?
Well, we basically have 4 levels of government. You have your federal government, which you have the President of the United States. You have your state government, which is your governor. You have your county officials, and then you have your local elected officials.
Okay.
So we all have a role and responsibility, and number one is to keep the community safe. But when it gets down to the local level, believe it or not, 70% of everything that you need every day comes from your local government. So it's not what happens in Washington, D.C. in the 6 o'clock news. It's what's happening at 6 o'clock meetings that a lot of people just don't come out to. So it's one of those situations where the mayor, at least in our city, we have what's called a city manager form of government. Well, we're the policy makers, but the city manager runs the city. Versus like New York City, where the mayor of New York City and Chicago and Philadelphia and L.A., they are their word speaks for everything. They can hire, they can fire. In our form of government, only the city manager can do those functions, but we can provide the city manager direction on those types of policies.
But the city manager, he exercise and execute those laws that the commissioners made.
Correct.
Interesting. Including the police and the different law enforcement laws, etc.
Well, our law enforcement is by Florida statute, the Florida, FDLE. You have that mandate, and you also have the federal laws. But what we do is we hire the city manager, and then the city manager hires the police chief, hires the fire chief. But the police chief and I, we speak all the time about the good, the bad, and the things that we can do to help improve the community.
Well, I suppose that makes a lot of sense. That's how you all as commissioners will be able to know how to make policies and laws and adjust and change accordingly.
It's vitally important. Like as of this taping, we're currently discussing body cameras. That's something that is a national issue. But here locally, we moved forward on the item in order to give the public confidence that our police department is exceptional. So, it's one of those give and take relationships. Unfortunately, when you hear on the news about hatred and abuse, I mean, we don't tolerate that here in Pembroke Pines. We're an all-inclusive city, and I'm so proud not only to be a resident of the city, but to be able to lead our city into the next decade.
No, and Pembroke Pines is a very well-known and popular city in the United States of America. I think once Pembroke Pines had some rating as the 5th fastest growing city in the United States of America. Was there something like that?
We were right after Hurricane Andrew. A lot of folks came out of, moved from Dade County, rightfully so. They picked the best place in the world to live, is Pembroke Pines. So in 1992, we had a little bit less than 60,000 people.
Right.
We now have almost 170,000 people. To put that in perspective, There's 19,000 cities in the United States. Pembroke Pines is currently ranked the 143rd most populous city in the nation.
Wow.
We are number 10 in the entire state of Florida, and we're number 2 here in Broward County.
Wow. No, that's good. So it's a pleasure and a privilege and an honor to be living in Pembroke Pines.
It does, and my background living in Philadelphia and seeing the challenges of what Philadelphia was experiencing in my own life experience, I bring that to the commission in order to give a sense of what we can do to make sure that the quality of life for families, children, those who want to retire here is always maintained well.
So before we go on a break, I have a little hot question to ask you.
Sure.
Because, you know, there are a lot of things we hear on the media and we see, etc. And sometimes people assume things. It may be real, it may not be real. Muslims in a city, whether it's in Pembroke Pines or in other cities, other citizens, well, let me put it like this, other non-Muslims, or if there are non-Muslims who do not like Muslims, do they complain to city officials that there is a Muslim neighbor that moved in by me, or there is a mosque? You know, if they do, that's one thing, and I sort of think they would or they do, but then how are those things handled?
The truth is that we do have that.
Mm-hmm.
Not only in Pembroke Pines, but in the state of Florida and also in the nation. And this misunderstanding has to come to an end, Sheikh.
You mean non-Muslims will report to the city that here is a Muslim next door by me, what do I do? Or, I mean,
let me put it a little bit more direct. We do have folks who are concerned that I have somebody living next door that doesn't reflect my values or my way of life.
mm-hmm.
This is the United States of America.
Yes.
And in the United States of America, Christians, Muslims, Jews are a fabric of our nation. You know, Thomas Jefferson had a Quran
Yes.
as a part of his library. You know, so the fact that the United States went through a civil war over slavery, and 150 years later, there's shootings in South Carolina churches, and shootings throughout the United States in the name of religion is just twisted, because a person of faith doesn't act out on those things, you see, and a neighbor getting to know a neighbor,
mm-hmm.
and sitting down and breaking bread with one another, and going to school and having direct conversations is vitally important. What we can't do is to allow the trend to continue. And I'll share a story. A friend of mine explained to me that one of his friends, a doctor who delivers babies in California, Muslim, delivered over 3,000 babies. And the man was in his 40s, and on his way home from work, he had a heart attack. And the car veered off the road and went into a shopping center and through the glass window. The immediate reports were, because the man was Muslim, that somehow there was a terrorist attack at the shopping center.
Wow.
And here's a man who has been bringing life
Mm-hmm.
into our country, and just because of the color of his skin or his faith, somehow he's being linked to terrorism. Now, we have terrorism in the world.
Yes.
And we have to be vigilant. And if you see something, you have to say something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? And we cannot allow them to win.
Of course.
But that doesn't mean that, like myself, you know, you can't ask people, or you can't assume people are one thing. Just because you have radicals. Timothy McVeigh blew up the Oklahoma City building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Christian. You have what happened in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? So terrorism is terrorism, regardless of who commits it. Okay? And what we need to do, Sheikh, is we really need to have an honest conversation. Get more involved in the local community. I'm all in favor of having more interfaith workshops and sit-downs. with my neighbors, with other municipalities, because you know what, South Florida, I believe, is the new city of brotherly love. We
Yes.
are the melting pot of the world.
No, but that's a real interesting point you have come up with, and we got to go on a short break. And when
Okay.
we come back, I think we need to let our viewers hear a little more about, or a little more in details as to what elected officials can do to help solve this Islamophobia problem, and what Muslims should do to help solve these problems. Because I believe it's both sides. American elected officials need to make some effort to solve this problem, and Muslims themselves need to make some additional effort to help solve this problem. So as a commissioner and an elected official, that would be wonderful to hear from you, and our viewers throughout the world would really appreciate this.
I'm looking forward to having that
So
conversation.
when we come back after the break, we'll continue. So thank you very much. We have been speaking to Commissioner J. Schwartz, the Commissioner of Pembroke Pines City, Florida, USA. And after this short break, we will continue this very interesting conversation. Welcome back to Who is Who in America on AlHikmat TV. And our guest, Commissioner J. Schwartz. So we had a very wonderful conversation, and I'm looking forward to hear your answer and your response to how could elected officials in America, whether it's Pembroke Pines or national, how can they help solve this Islamophobia problem with that doctor example that you just gave? And what should Muslims do to better the situation?
Well, I'll tell you what elected officials should not do.
Okay.
They shouldn't hide in the shadows. They need to come out and speak against Islamophobia.
And that's fantastic, because if they do that, it will automatically kill that negativity.
It would. However, that's what leadership is.
They should do what you're doing here.
There's a difference between being a politician and being a public servant. And this is a great example. You know, it seems to me that this isn't a left-right partisan issue.
Mhm.
It's a humanity issue.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's vitally important that elected officials who ask for the public trust, that the public can trust that they're going to do the right thing. And silence is never a good thing.
So you're saying on matters of such, they should come out and voice their opinion
Absolutely.
whenever there is an issue.
Absolutely. Now, we may not agree with everything that they say,
Mhm.
you know, because that's just the democracy that we live in. But I think it's pretty clear that when there's misinformation, the rumor mill starts.
Yes.
One of the things that I've been able to do, building a large, diverse support here in the community of appointing all walks of life to city boards, is that it creates a dialogue, okay, that quite honestly, I want Pembroke Pines to be a leader in what a community is supposed to be about. You know, I go to houses of worship and I speak often about what it is to be a good neighbor, okay? And if you're a good neighbor, another step is get engaged in the local process. If you're not voting, you are allowing those who do show up to the polls.
Right, and I don't want to cut you, but
Sure.
I need to say congratulations for the effort that you make to go to different Islamic mosques. I know you go to Christian and Jewish religious temples, but
do.
you know, it's nice to know that you have visited the mosque, and you have been to Islamic functions and Muslim programs, because I've heard from other people that you have always been there. Whenever you're invited, you go the 9 yards to be part of the Muslim community, and I think that's a wonderful effort, and I will think it's a sacrifice also, because you could be jeopardizing yourself with those other elected officials who don't speak out, but your presence speaks a lot, and things like that more or less, if other elected officials do, it may help kill Islamophobia?
Well, I mean, Sheikh, you bring up a good point. Because I am an elected official, not a private citizen, things that I do sometimes wind up on the internet and in the
Yes.
blogs. And yes, I have been accused of being a threat to national security
Wow.
because I've reached out
To
to
Muslims.
to the Muslim community.
How sad.
Now, I didn't think I had that much power, but you know, I mean, to think that someone would spread a blog all over America that somehow Jay Schwartz, a City of Pembroke Pines commissioner that is friends with the Muslim community, is somehow a threat. To me, we have a lot more to tackle moving forward, and I am determined to stop the hate and to stop the bigotry.
So what do you think Muslims should do? How should they get themselves involved to help remove this Islamophobia?
Well, the process starts with engaging with your local elected officials, engaging with your county elected officials, engaging in your state representatives, engaging with members of Congress. Pick up the phone and call them. Say, listen, I need 10 minutes of your time because I have concerns. Here's the stories I get. A 12-year-old boy comes up to me, a Muslim boy comes up to me and says, Jay, I'm being bullied in school because I'm a Muslim. I reach out to the parents to let them know that their boy came to me and they're afraid to speak out for their own safety.
Oh.
That's a problem, and we need to solve it, and we need to solve it today.
And the parents are afraid because they think it will make things even worse for them.
Because they don't feel like they have the support
And they have
of
the rights.
of the total embodiment of what we're supposed to be doing in the United States of America.
So you're saying they should come and speak out. They should
Absolutely.
meet the official. They should.
attend local commission meetings, local council meetings, local county meetings, and speak out. Reach out to your elected officials. That's the best thing I can say. Reach out, because if you don't reach out, your voice will never be heard.
So the voice of the Muslims will not be heard if they don't reach out, and if they don't get involved in the election and the voting process
Correct.
to choose the people that represent them and that will represent them best.
Politicians, when they run for office, especially on a national level, they have polling, and you hear polls about this one in the lead, that one in the lead, who they do better in certain ethnic groups and that sort of thing. Well, here's the truth. When a certain group is marginalized, chances are it's because they don't vote. So it doesn't matter what comes out of that politician's mouth. They know that on election day, that group of people
Did not vote.
will not come out and vote.
But
So
they also have the records whether the Muslims voted or not.
there is a need in the United States of America right now to have your voice heard. See, it's
No, what I'm saying,
yes.
do the elected officials know whether the Muslims voted or not?
Yes.
Or they have that system,
It's all public. It's all public data.
which is very important, because it's important for the Muslims to know that it's public data, that they are not voting. And then when they come and ask the commissioner, and they come and ask you for help, and they never voted for you, or they never voted for the elected official, yes, the elected official, their duty is to take care of everybody, but it's only obvious, it's only human that they would go the extra 9 yards to care for the people who voted for them. That's only human.
I must tell you, the conversation, I like to focus on the positive. And here's some good news. We have some really good elected officials in this country that do speak out. So when you have a community leader who believes in embracement, who believes in the Constitution, who believes that we the people is all the people, I would say whatever community you're in, gravitate towards those individuals, because through the voting process, you you can get rid of the bad wood, and you can keep those who are looking out for everybody's interest, not their own personal self-preservation. So, for example, the President of the United States recently went to a mosque.
Yes.
It's clear as day the amount of positive and the amount of negative that occurred. But you know, it shouldn't take the President of the United States to make a statement. Your local mayors, your local commissioners, your governors, why aren't they doing that? We have 50 states. Where are the 50 governors at? We have 67 counties in Florida, and each panel is approximately anywhere between 7 to 9 folks. So right there, you have over 350 potential elected officials at the county level. Where are they at?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And then here at the local level, all the local councils and commissioners are 5, and there's 31 cities here in Broward County. So that's 150 elected officials.
So you're basically saying if the governors and the elected officials come out and they speak, you know, when there are issues and matters and voice their opinion, that can help delete and eliminate Islamophobia. And if the Muslims would vote for those elected officials who speak out and who support the Muslim cause or the humanitarian cause, then that will better the situation. So what we're really saying here, Commissioner, is that Muslims need to get up, not only ask, and I'm glad, you know, you're on this show, Who is Who in America, because that's a problem we have with the Muslim community. The majority of them will sit back and want to know what the commissioners are doing, what the mayor is doing, what the governor is doing. But if they don't go and support those mayors and governors and elected officials by voting for them, then how could they expect a response? It's not fair.
We, together, having this conversation, I hope is a good start.
I hope so. And we're going to let this message reach out there. The world needs to see this. The world needs to know we have people like you, I mean, from a Jewish background, an elected official, Commissioner of Pembroke Pines, a very prominent city in the United States of America. With your support, with your opinions, with your words of wisdom, I think this will reach a far place.
Well, Sheikh, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
So what else would you like to say in your closing remarks? It has been a pleasure to have you.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank your audience for tuning in. This is a great opportunity to get to know me and to get to know what the city of Pembroke Pines is about, an all-inclusive city. We have a great community. We have 2 mosques here in Pembroke Pines. I frequent both, along with the other houses of worship. You know, at this point, my goal is to bring our community together, stand together, arm in arm, and you know, it's okay to hug your neighbor.
Yes.
And that's what I'm looking forward to. More hugs.
We need to create and establish that bond.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner. It's a pleasure to have you. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you, Sheikh.
And we hope to see you again on this show, Who is Who in America. And ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure to have Commissioner J. Schwartz with us on Who is Who in America on AlHikmat TV. Again, he is the Commissioner of Pembroke Pines City, and you heard his words on his advice to elected officials and his advice to Muslims in supporting elected officials who can help make a difference and help eliminate this problem and the problems we have in the United States of America. Thank you very much for viewing, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah.